Governor Polis's property tax measure may be unconstitutional. At least that's what a lawsuit claims filed by citizens against the state of Colorado. If you've been following this channel, you know that last month the legislature passed Senate Bill 23303, which referred Proposition HH to the ballot. What this whole thing is about is that Coloradans are about to see the largest property tax increase in Colorado history. Proposition HH uses that impending property tax crisis in an attempt to coerce Coloradans to give up their taxpayer refunds forever in exchange for a slightly less massive property tax increase. The whole thing is extortion, and Coloradans should reject it outright. But is it really unconstitutional? The property tax bill, Senate Bill 23303, crafted by Governor Polis in the legislature, is now law, but it won't go into effect unless voters adopt Proposition HH this November. Last month, a group of citizens, state and local officials, former and current, 12 Colorado counties, and the nonprofit Advance Colorado all filed a lawsuit to prevent Proposition HH from appearing on the ballot this November. Now, before you get all excited about the prospect of a lawsuit killing this abysmal measure, let's actually look at the claims of that lawsuit and see, do they hold water? The complaint and opening brief filed with the court go into a lot of details and legal jargon. We're going to hit the highlights here. Article 5, Section 21 of Colorado's Constitution contains two requirements. First, legislation must contain only one subject. And second, that subject must be clearly expressed in the title. The lawsuit claims that Senate Bill 303 and Proposition HH violate both of those requirements. We're going to investigate those claims based on the facts. First, the lawsuit claims the property tax bill contains at least four subjects. And to any common person exercising a little bit of common sense, this is obviously true. It reduces the residential assessment rate by 0.065%. It spends money on rental assistance. It would forever end taxpayer refunds under Colorado's Taxpayers' Bill of Rights. And it asks voters if the state can use refund money on some other purpose. Even the bill's sponsors agree that the bill violates the single subject requirement. Representative Chris Kennedy explained his legislation, quote, must tackle several problems at the same time. The lawsuit also claims the bill violates the constitutional requirement that bill titles clearly express the bill's single subject. The title for Senate Bill 303 begins by highlighting the, quote, reduction in property taxes contained in the measure. But here's the first problem. Bills and ballot measures that change tax rates always include the rate change in the title, but not here. That's probably because the rate reduction is so small that including it in the title would reduce the chances of passage. Why in the world would I give up my taxpayer refund forever for a 0.065% reduction in the residential assessment rate? And this gets to the heart of the next major issue on clarity with the title. The authors of the bill listed the property tax reduction at the beginning of the bill title to make it sound like reducing property taxes is the bill's primary purpose. Of course, we know that's not the case. The bill's primary purpose is to take away your taxpayer refund. Yet that part they buried in the middle of the title using ambiguous language. The part of the title related to taking away your taxpayer refund reads, permitting the state to retain and spend revenue up to the Proposition HH cap. The ballot question does essentially the same thing. Nowhere does it tell Colorado voters in clear and direct terms that if they vote for Proposition HH, they'll be giving up their taxpayer refunds. Proposition HH clearly violates the plain intent of the single subject and clear title requirements in Colorado's Constitution. The courts have explained in past rulings that the single subject requirement exists to ensure that each legislative proposal depends on its own merits for passage. Proposition HH was deliberately crafted to tie property tax relief to ending taxpayer refunds forever. Governor Polis and the other politicians behind Proposition HH tried to end taxpayer refunds in 2019 with Proposition CC, and voters rejected the idea. In other words, ending taxpayer refunds failed on its own merits. Because ending taxpayer refunds could not pass on its own merits, these same politicians are now making property tax relief contingent on voters agreeing to give up their taxpayer refunds forever. To a layman, it's obvious that Senate Bill 303 and thus Proposition HH violate the Constitution. But don't be surprised if the court politicizes this issue and bends over backwards to rubber stamp the property tax measure. The court's expected to hand down a ruling this week, and you'll be updated right here on IITV. If you want to get notified when the next video comes out, hit the subscribe button below. But remember this in the meantime: if knowledge is power, then ignorance is servitude. If you like this content and want to see more, let YouTube know by hitting the like button. That way I can bring you and other Coloradans more knowledge like this.